Isn't it funny how the human mind works? Our minds are extremely ungrateful, and hedonistic adaptation is a real thing. It took me leaving San Diego to begin to appreciate it. The first time I was here, I spent 7 months and I was not particularly thrilled. I was focused solely on the negative things like the homeless people, the crazy people, especially downtown, and I totally failed to appreciate the good aspects. The beautiful weather every day, the positive attitude of the people, how relaxed and chill they are, just pleasant and open to anybody. The vast variety of different sceneries around, from desert hikes to beautiful coastal trails, beaches, tide pools, the diversity of different atmospheres that each and every neighborhood carries with itself, feeling like a completely different city on its own, and so much more. After leaving San Diego and exploring a few more states that were very different on their own, they had one common thing amongst them all. They enriched and broadened our perspective, enabling us to appreciate San Diego in much more depth. And with a different pair of eyes than people that were born and raised here, for example. People that don't necessarily know any different because that's where they lived all their lives. So 2 years later, we find ourselves back in San Diego, geared with a deeper base to compare, broadened point of view, and a whole fresh perspective. I feel that this time I'm reaching deeper into the beauty of this place. And coming back this time, it feels a little different and weird. We don't have that intense feeling of uncertainty, and those survival mechanisms are not firing in our brains, giving us immense motivation to go day after day into the unknown, trying to quickly get on our feet, finding a job, apartment, and things like that. This time we knew where to start looking again, and in a matter of days, we had a place secured. Job wise, we got in contact with people we worked for before prior to coming back, and we had a job ready, waiting for us. 2 days in, and we've already reconnected with friends from 2 years ago. It was weird, but in a good way. Everything felt so easy. The chaos of being in a completely new and unknown territory was missing. It almost felt like we never left. My wife had a fair share of struggle figuring things out, signing up for college, trying to understand how the education system works in the US, as it's completely different than the one in Bulgaria. But she powered through, and despite all the feelings of uncertainty, questions in her mind if she'll be able to catch up and even understand anything, learning and studying a completely different language. Through her dedication and hard work, she is now at the top of her class. We moved back at the same place downtown we used to live, and we signed a full 1 year lease. Knowing that this time we're settling down and we'll be here for a while, not just 5, 6 months and ditch, I felt that it was time for me to finally get a car. Enough of carrying water bottles and grocery bags in the trolley and on the bus. Saving money by not having a car was great, but at this point it was really a necessity. After a few weeks of browsing listings, I pulled the trigger on an old Audi, having no clue that maintenance on that thing costs an arm and a leg. Figured that out the hard way, and after a year of constant repairs and countless trips to the shop, I had enough. I cut my losses and decided to punish my ego. I've always been buying cars based on their looks and never took into consideration repair costs, reliability, fuel efficiency, and things like that. Because back in Bulgaria, you can kind of get away with it. Everybody is driving old beaten up Audis and BMWs, and the repair shops are not charging $150 an hour. But here in the US, as I learned the hard way, it's a different story. So I was determined to teach myself a lesson and to find the ugliest, most pathetic, but also cheap easy to maintain, most reliable, and fuel efficient car. Yep, you probably guessed it by now. Prius. I've kept a record of how much I spend on gas, repairs, insurance, and all the different expenses for the Audi for a 1 year period. And I wanted to make a year long experiment comparing those costs with the Prius. And I gotta tell you, the difference is huge, even just for a single year. And I'm a little ashamed to admit it, but what started as a year long experiment and an ego punishment turned into developing good feelings towards that Prius for one single reason: the sheer feeling of reliability. I've never had experienced that before. Always having Audis and BMWs up until that point, that was a completely unknown feeling for me. Going from an oil change to oil change without a single problem or repair, unbelievable. Having a complete peace of mind driving from San Diego to Los Angeles, not wondering if the engine's gonna overheat if I hit traffic and little things like that. And it's funny because in that case we're comparing an Audi with barely 150,000 miles with a Prius with 250,000 miles, a quarter of a million miles, while topping up the oil of the Audi was like a second job for me. But enough of me praising one of the most pathetic cars on the planet. You get the idea. I punish my ego and learn my lesson. Fast forward a year later of working and living life in San Diego, our lease was coming to an end. And for a while, we wanted to move into something a little bit bigger, like normal people. We lived basically in a hotel room for a full year. So we started looking for a one-bedroom apartment. The problem was that the market at that point was completely insane. It was out of control price-wise, and we were forced to move a little bit into the ghetto in not so great neighborhoods near City Heights. We spent there a full year, and after a few events dealing with termites, homeless, and crazy people, and few robberies in the middle of the night, our lease ended. And we were super happy because the market cooled down a bit, and for the same price we managed to move to a much nicer part of town in North Park, where we live to this day peacefully and termite free for now. Shortly after we moved into the new spot, it struck us that we're about to hit the 5 year mark in the US very, very soon. In few weeks, we will be eligible to apply for citizenship and start our naturalization process. So we started doing our research, gathering all the information needed, and began our process online. A week or so after we filled up the forms, we got scheduled to get our photos and fingerprints taken and received little questionnaire booklets with history questions, so we started studying. After we got that done, we received dates for our interviews that were about in 2 months. The interviews were pretty interesting. On top of the history questions, we got asked few weird ones, but overall it was pretty smooth. And on the following week, we had our ceremonies where we took the oaths and our naturalization certificates were given to us. Looking back, the whole process was super smooth, definitely interesting, and it took way less than anticipated. We got our passports pretty quick. Everything from start to finish took about 5 months. And it's an interesting feeling that only after 5 years on and off in the US, I can call myself American. I'm definitely super grateful for the opportunity to be here, to work and travel and explore the whole continent, accepted with a smile and open arms by everybody. The more time passes and the more I think about it, the more grateful I am. But also, it feels a bit weird. I'm first and foremost Bulgarian. I don't feel American by any means. It's interesting, I often think, how would I react if somebody 5 years ago came to me while I was delivering food, zipping through the streets of my hometown and told me, "Hey, brother, In 5 years, you'll be American. Crazy. So here we are, 5 years later, after starting life few different times from scratch in different parts of America, making friends in different states and cities around the country, after meeting lots of good people that helped us tremendously along the way, after a fair share of struggles and intense feelings of uncertainty and overwhelm, roller coaster of emotions, officially we became first generation Americans. And if I could go back, I wouldn't change a single thing. Every struggle and every challenge forged us into the characters we are today, and was a precious lesson and a building block that sculpted us into the people we are right now. My friends, we're wrapping up chapter 505 of the FGA series. Thanks for riding along, and I salute you for enduring my awkward presence and my pathetic attempts at creating those videos. And even though the FGA series are ending, I'm gonna do a wrap-up video going through how much money I saved and spent in each of those cities in each of those states, giving people a realistic idea of what is it really to work and live in those different parts of America. Have a good one, my friends. I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.